I shouldn't have gone down those stairs that night. The sign outside said Grace Church, a meeting, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. But there was no grace in that basement. Only the smell of damp stone, the ticking of an old clock that never moved, and 12 empty chairs waiting for me, as if they already knew my name. The rain was relentless that evening, the kind that turns small-town streets into black mirrors. My wipers squeaked across the windshield, struggling against the downpour as I searched for the old church. The GPS signal kept cutting out, leaving me alone with static, thunder, and the dull hum of my own anxiety. It had been 3 months since my last drink, 3 miserable, shaking months. My sponsor from the city told me to find a local AA group after I moved out here. "You need people who understand, Evan," he'd said. "You can't fight it alone." He was right. But Grace Church didn't look like the kind of place that offered salvation. The church stood at the far edge of town, where the pavement gave way to gravel. Its steeple was crooked, its cross half swallowed by ivy. Yellow light leaked through a few stained glass windows, fractured and dim. The parking lot was empty except for one rusted pickup and a black sedan that looked like it hadn't moved in years. I parked beside the truck and stared at the sign nailed to the fence. Alcoholics Anonymous. The 13th Step group. Tuesdays and Fridays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Basement entrance round back. The 13th Step. It struck me as odd. There are only 12 steps in a ta. Everyone knows that. I figured maybe it was an inside joke, or maybe the sign was old and no one cared enough to fix it. Still, something about that phrase clung to me as I walked through the rain and around the church. The basement door was made of thick wood, scarred with scratches. A dim bulb flickered above it, barely fighting the darkness. As I pulled the handle, it let out a long, aching creak. The smell hit first mildew, dust, and something else. Faintly metallic, like rust or old blood. My shoes sank slightly into the damp carpet as I stepped inside. A flight of stairs led down into a corridor lined with faded posters. One day at a time. Let go and let God. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Their edges were curled, their colors nearly gone. At the end of the hall, I saw it, the meeting room. 12 chairs were arranged in a perfect circle under the humming light of a fluorescent bulb. A metal coffee urn sat on a folding table beside a stack of styrofoam cups and a plate of stale cookies. The old clock on the wall showed 8 o'clock exactly. It didn't tick. It didn't move. And yet, I swear I could hear the sound of ticking soft, rhythmic, behind the walls. A woman's voice broke the silence. "You must be new," I turned. She stood by the coffee table, smiling. Her hair was silver, her hands folded neatly in front of her. She wore a long gray coat that looked older than I was. "Yeah," I said, trying to smile back. "I'm Evan. I just moved here. We're always happy to see a newcomer," she said. "I'm Ruth. Been sober since 1987. She gestured toward the circle. Sid. "The others will be along shortly." I thanked her and took a seat. The metal chair was ice cold. As I sat, the air seemed heavier, thicker, like the basement was breathing with me. Within minutes, others arrived. A man in a flannel jacket, his boots leaving wet marks on the floor. A young woman with nervous eyes and trembling fingers. An older man in a priest's collar. One by one, they filled the seats until all 12 were taken, except the one next to me. Ruth clapped her hands lightly. "Let's begin." They went around the circle, introducing themselves in that familiar A rhythm. "Hi, I'm John, and I'm an alcoholic." "Hi, John." "Hi, I'm Carol." "And I'm an alcoholic." "Hi, Carol." The voices echoed softly off the stone walls. When it came to me, I hesitated. I'm Evan," I said. "And I'm an alcoholic." They all responded in unison. "Hi, Evan." Their smiles were polite, but their eyes lingered too long, like they were studying me. As the meeting went on, I noticed things, small, strange things. No one touched their coffee, though steam still rose from the urn. No one blinked. And every time someone laughed or spoke, their breath didn't fog in the cold air. When it was Ruth's turn to speak, the others went still. "We've all walked hard roads," she said softly. "We've all fallen. But the Lord brought us here, to this place, to finish what we couldn't finish in life." Her words made me shiver. In life, I must have misheard. She continued. Some people think recovery ends at 12 steps. But we've found a higher truth, haven't we, friends? The group nodded together. The 13th step, Ruth said. Surrender beyond self, beyond flesh. A man across the circle, his name tag, said. Tom smiled with broken teeth. The body fails, he said, but the spirit keeps working. There was a faint hum in the air now, like a generator kicking on somewhere below us. My head started to ache. I rubbed my temples, trying to focus. The clock still read 8 o'clock. I looked down at my phone. 8:47 p.m. Nearly an hour had passed. The old clock was lying, or time was. Ruth's voice softened, almost a whisper. Would you like to share tonight, Evan? I didn't want to. My chest was tight, my pulse heavy. But everyone was staring, waiting. Yeah, I said quietly. Sure. I told them about my father. How he drank himself to death in his truck when I was 16. How I promised I wouldn't end up like him. How that promise broke somewhere between my 3rd and 4th DUI. When I finished, Ruth smiled kindly. You're trying to let go, she said. That's good. But you haven't truly surrendered yet. I'm working on it, I said. That's what they all say, she replied. The others chuckled softly. Their laughter was dry, hollow, like the echo of something once human. After the meeting, I helped stack the chairs. Ruth thanked me and told me to come back Friday. We don't get many new souls these days, she said. That word again, souls. As I left, I glanced back. The chairs were back in their perfect circle. 12 of them. But when the flickering light above the doorway buzzed, I saw it just for a second. A 13th chair in the corner, made of wood, older than the rest, and someone was sitting in it. I blinked. The light steadied. The chair was gone. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night was still, the sky a thick bruise of gray and black. My car was the only one in the lot now. The pickup and sedan were gone. But the ground where they had been parked was soaked darker than the rest, like oil or something thicker. I drove home without turning on the radio. The silence felt safe. The next few days passed in a blur. I tried to tell myself it had just been nerves, imagination, maybe low blood sugar. But the unease stayed with me, clinging like smoke. I looked up the 13th Step group online. Nothing. Not even on the official AA registry. I asked around town, at the diner, at the pharmacy. No one had heard of any meetings at Grace Church. One guy even said the church had been closed since the fire. That made no sense. I'd been there. I'd seen them. Friday night came, and against all reason, I went back. The same sign was out front. The same dim light above the basement door. The same creak as it opened. Inside, the same smell, same posters, same 12 chairs. And Ruth, still smiling, was waiting for me. Welcome back, Evan, she said. We knew you'd return. I frowned. You knew? No one leaves before finishing the steps. I told you, I'm not finished. Yes, dear. Not yet. The others began to arrive, one by one. Each face exactly as before, down to the smallest detail. The same clothes, the same smiles, the same stillness. That's when I noticed it. None of them had reflections in the little window on the metal coffee pot. But mine did. The chairs were all filled again, 12 perfect souls in a perfect circle. Ruth sat across from me, her hands clasped, eyes closed as she began to pray. God, grant us the serenity. The others joined in unison, voices blending into something low and rhythmic, almost like a chant. To accept the things we cannot change. The light above us flickered once. The bulb hummed louder. The courage to change the things we can. The words vibrated through the floor. My ears started to ring. And the wisdom to know the difference. When they finished, silence fell heavy, suffocating. I realized I'd been holding my breath. Then Ruth smiled. Tonight, we'll talk about step 12. She turned toward me. Evan, would you read it for us? My throat was dry. I picked up one of the old pamphlets from the table, its pages yellowed and damp. I read aloud. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Beautiful, Ruth whispered, but incomplete. Her eyes were darker now, deep wells of shadow. You see, the steps are not just about sobriety. They're about transcendence, I frowned. Transcendence? Freedom from the flesh, said the man in the flannel jacket. Freedom from the body that betrays us. From hunger, added Carol, the young woman with the trembling hands. From thirst. From pain. From life, Ruth finished. The others nodded, smiling softly. My stomach twisted. You're saying death? Not death, dear, Ruth said. Liberation. The hum in the walls grew louder, like something alive beneath the stone. We all took the 13th step, she continued. We all surrendered beyond flesh. I looked around. None of them blinked. None of them breathed. And yet, they all smiled. I stood abruptly. I think I need to go. Of course, Ruth said, still smiling. You're free to leave whenever you wish. The others turned their heads toward me as one. Their movements were too smooth, too synchronized. I hurried toward the hallway, heart pounding. But when I reached the stairs, the door was gone. Just blank concrete. I ran my hands along the wall, searching for a seam, a handle, anything, nothing. The posters were gone too. The walls were bare now, the air colder. Behind me, the chairs scraped against the floor. Slowly, deliberately. Don't fight it. Evan, Ruth's voice echoed from the room. You came here because you wanted help. You wanted release. I wanted to stop drinking, I shouted. And you will, she said. Once you stop being alive. I turned. They were all standing now, their faces pale and waxy, eyes hollow. A faint mist leaked from their mouths like cold vapor. Carol stepped forward first. I drowned in whiskey and river water, she whispered. Now I'm clean. Tom, the man with broken teeth, smiled. I blew my head off with a shotgun, he said. No more cravings. Ruth raised her hands. We are beyond pain, Evan. Join us. Something inside me snapped. I bolted past them toward the far wall, where I thought I saw another door. My shoes splashed through water pooling on the floor. When I reached it, I grabbed the handle and pulled, and a gust of freezing air hit me. The stairs led down, not up. The steps were slick, carved from old stone. A light glowed faintly below, pulsing like a heartbeat. I descended slowly, one hand gripping the wall. At the bottom was a room small, circular, with low ceilings and stone walls slick with moisture. In the center sat an iron basin filled with dark liquid. The smell was unbearable, sweet, metallic, rotting. Above it hung a crucifix, but the figure on it wasn't Christ. It was something else. The body was twisted, head thrown back, mouth open wide in a scream. Carved words lined the wall. The 13th step. Surrender beyond flesh. And beneath that, smaller letters. Through death we are delivered. Through the 13th we ascend. I stumbled backward. My foot hit something soft. A shoe, then another, then a pile of them. Men's boots, women's heels, sneakers, hundreds of them stacked in a corner, covered in dust. All the newcomers who never left. I turned to run, but Ruth was standing at the bottom of the stairs. You found our altar, she said gently. You should be proud. You killed them. No, she said. They chose. Her voice grew soft, almost kind. When we die, we drink from the basin. We are cleansed of all desire, all sin, all flesh. But the living can't leave once they've seen. I'm not joining you, I hissed. You already have, dear, she said. The moment you walked through that door. Behind her, the others appeared, moving down the stairs in silence. The light from the basin pulsed brighter, red now, like a heartbeat quickening. I grabbed the nearest object, an old metal folding chair, and swung. The chair went through her. She smiled. We're past the body, Evan. You can't hurt what's already gone. The hum in the walls turned into a roar. The crucifix above the basin trembled. The figure's mouth opened wider, and I swear I heard it breathe. Ruth extended her hand. Step into the circle, Evan. Let go. You'll never hurt again. For a second, I wanted to. The temptation was almost peaceful. No guilt, no pain, no shaking hands. Then I saw the basin ripple faces rising to the surface, faces of the people I'd met. Their eyes rolled white, mouths moving silently beneath the liquid. I ran. I charged up the stairs, through the circle of chairs, toward the wall that had no door, and slammed into it. The concrete cracked. Light bled through the fissures, faint but real. I threw my shoulder against it again. The crack widened. A sound like 100 whispers filled the air. Hands cold, invisible, grabbed my arms, my throat. "The 13th step awaits," Ruth hissed. I pushed harder. The wall gave way. I stumbled out into the night air, collapsing in the mud. The rain had started again, soft and cold. When I looked back, the church was dark. No lights, no cars, no sound. Just silence. But on the fence, the sign had changed. Grace Church, in loving memory of the 13th Step Group, 1987 to 1991. They sought peace and found it. I spent the night in my car, parked behind a gas station 20 miles from town. Rain tapped the windshield in slow, patient rhythms. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ruth smile and heard the faint echo of that prayer. By morning, I convinced myself I could fix this rationally. Report it. People had died down there. The police would find something. At the station, a deputy with a sunburned face took my statement. When I mentioned Grace Church, his brows knit. "Grace burned down in '91, he said. "Gas leak in the basement. Whole A group went up with it." My mouth went dry. "No, it's still there." I was there Tuesday and Friday. There were people. He raised a hand. "Son, whatever you saw wasn't in this county. That building's just a ruin. Been condemned for 30 years. He showed me a faded photo on his computer. The same crooked steeple, blackened walls, roof half collapsed. It was dated 1991. I left before he could ask more. But outside, every car alarm on the block started blaring at once. And over the noise, I swore I heard 12 voices whisper in unison, "Keep coming back." 3 nights later, I opened a bottle. "Only one drink," I told myself, just to steady the nerves. But the whiskey burned like holy fire going down, and I kept pouring until the bottle was empty. That's when I saw the condensation on the mirror across the room. Words written in the fog, backwards. 13th step, Friday 8 p.m. I wiped the glass. The letters smeared, but the reflection behind me didn't. Ruth stood in the corner, smiling. The bottle fell from my hand and shattered. When I turned around, nothing. Just my own shaking shadow. I checked my phone. Friday, 7:54 p.m. I told myself I wasn't going back. But at 8 p.m., my car turned down that same dirt road as if it already knew the way. Grace Church looked exactly like the photo, now charred beams, collapsed roof, vines crawling through broken windows. No lights, no cars. The sign out front was the same memorial I'd seen before. Except this time, new words had been scratched into the wood beneath it. "Meeting tonight basement. There shouldn't be a basement anymore." But when I circled to the back, there it was, the same wooden door, untouched by fire. I hesitated, flashlight trembling in my hand. Then I heard them, muffled voices reciting the Serenity Prayer. "God, grant us the serenity." My heart pounded. The door opened on its own. The stairs were dry. The light below steady. And when I reached the bottom, 12 chairs waited in their perfect circle. The coffee urn steamed. Ruth looked up from the center seat. "Welcome back, Evan. We kept your chair warm." My voice cracked. "You're dead. So are you," she said softly. "You just haven't accepted it yet." She nodded toward my wrist. I looked down. The veins were dark, sluggish. My pulse barely there. "You took your 13th step when you opened that bottle," she said. "You drowned in it." Memory hit like lightning. The broken glass, the burning throat, the spinning room, the sound of my own heartbeat slowing. I wasn't sure if I'd ever left the church at all. The group rose together. Their forms flickered like candlelight, bodies half real, half memory. "It's time to finish what you started," Ruth whispered. The old clock on the wall ticked for the first time. Each sound heavier than the last. Tick. Surrender. Tick. Beyond. Tick. Flesh. The basin appeared again in the center of the circle, filled now with clear water that reflected only darkness. Ruth extended her hand. "Drink and be free." I knelt before it, trembling. In the reflection, I saw every face I'd ever disappointed. My father, my sponsor, strangers I'd hurt. They looked peaceful. I dipped my hands into the water. It was warm, pulsing, alive. Then something inside me rebelled. I pulled back. No, If this is death, I don't want it. Ruth's eyes widened, not in anger, but pity. Then you'll wander, Evan. Between steps? Neither alive nor gone, the room started to crumble. Chairs splintered. Lights burst. The figures screamed, not in rage, but sorrow. I ran up the stairs, through the collapsing church, into cold dawn. When I looked back, Grace Church was nothing but ashes again. The sign still stood. This time it read, "The 13th Step, closed meeting for those who can't let go." For 3 days I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that ticking clock, the one that had never moved, its sound buried in my pulse. I kept the lights on, drank coffee by the pot, but it didn't matter. Shadows clung to the corners of the room like oil stains. Every mirror I looked into showed something behind me. Not people. Not exactly. Shapes. 12 of them. Standing in a circle, waiting. I tried to go back to work at the auto shop, but customers' faces blurred. The radio crackled with whispers instead of music. That night, when I washed my hands in the bathroom sink, the water turned brown. When I looked closer, it wasn't water, it was whiskey. And floating on its surface was my reflection, mouth open, eyes dead. Ruth's voice came from the drain. "Keep coming back, Evan. It works if you work it." I smashed the mirror. The whisper didn't stop. I started living out of motels, bouncing from one to another like a fugitive. In each room, I found something waiting. A folded pamphlet on the nightstand. Alcoholics Anonymous, the 13th Step group. Meeting. Tonight, 8 p.m. Once, the TV turned on by itself, showing static that pulsed with faint shapes. The sound wasn't noise, it was breathing. Another night, I woke up to find the Bible open beside me, to a passage underlined in red. "The dead know not anything, neither have they any more reward." And scrawled beneath it, in handwriting I recognized as my own, "Finish the meeting." I drove until dawn, but no matter where I went, every road ended at the same place, the burned-out ruins of Grace Church. On the 4th night, I saw her again. Ruth sat in the passenger seat as if she'd always been there. No sound when she appeared. No shift of air, just there. Her coat was still gray, her smile kind. "You look tired, dear," she said softly. "Leave me alone," I whispered. "I can't. None of us can. The circle isn't complete. Then let me go. You're already one of us, Evan. You're just resisting the step." She placed a hand on my arm. It felt colder than stone. "You think you're alive because you keep running. But tell me, when did you last feel your heart beat?" I pressed my hand to my chest. Nothing, just silence. She smiled again, almost lovingly. "The living don't belong in our meetings. But neither do the dead who deny themselves. You're between steps now. 13th and nothing." Then she was gone. But the passenger seat was wet as if rain had soaked through it. And in the fogged glass of the window, 12 words were written backward. "We're waiting for the newcomer." That night, I returned. Not because I wanted to, but because there was nowhere else left to go. The town was quiet, asleep under a heavy fog. When I reached the place where Grace Church should have stood, there was nothing, no ruins, no road, just an empty field of grass. But in the middle of that field stood a door. Wooden, cracked, glowing faintly from beneath. A basement door without a church. It was waiting for me. I grabbed the handle. It was warm, beating like a pulse. When I pulled it open, I saw stairs descending into darkness. And from below came that familiar voice. "Welcome back, Evan." The smell of coffee. The sound of chairs scraping the floor. And 12 voices whispering together. "Keep coming back." I stepped forward. Because maybe they were right. Maybe I never left at all. The first thing I noticed was the smell of coffee, burnt and bitter, just like the night I first came. Then came the light bulb flicker, swinging above the basement's low ceiling, throwing shadows that moved even when I didn't. 12 chairs. Same circle, same faces, only now they weren't pretending. Their eyes were hollow, mouths cracked like old glass. Their skin shimmered faintly, translucent, like candle wax melting. Ruth stood at the head of the circle, clipboard in hand, just as before, but her voice wasn't warm anymore. It was the sound of wind through graves. "Let's welcome back Evan," she said softly. Our newcomer who never really left. The others clapped, slow, rhythmic, dead. The sound echoed like bones on wood. I wanted to scream, but my voice came out dry. What is this? What do you want from me? Just the final step, Ruth said. The 13th step. She nodded to the empty chair in the circle, the one that had always been waiting. You were meant to take it the night you crashed your car. My breath stopped cold. I survived that crash. Did you? She asked gently. You came here after, didn't you? You walked into this room, sat down, listened to us? My hands shook. I remembered the glass, the sirens, the smell of gas, then darkness. When I woke, I was sitting in the basement chair, and Ruth was smiling. You didn't survive, Evan. You arrived. Ruth moved closer, her shadow stretching across the floor like spilled ink. 12 steps bring the lost to redemption, she said. But there's one more for those who die still holding their guilt. The others began to speak in unison, voices overlapping, rising into a low chant. Step 13. Acceptance of death. Confession of sin. Joining the circle, she leaned in until her cold breath touched my ear. You keep running because you can't forgive yourself. But here, forgiveness is final. I looked down at my hands. They were pale, too pale. Faint bruises circled my wrists, the marks of a steering wheel. You killed someone, Ruth whispered. Who? I rasped. The boy in the other car. 13 years old. The room spun. I remembered headlights, sudden, blinding. A bottle rolling under my seat. A scream. Ruth touched my shoulder. You were drunk, Evan. That's why you came to us. But when you died, your guilt chained you here. That's why the meeting never ends. The 12 ghosts lifted their heads, faces glowing faintly in the dim light. One chair was still empty. Finish the circle, Ruth said. Take your seat. I wanted to run, but the stairs behind me had vanished. Only the circle remained. The air thickened, heavy as syrup. My heartbeat, if I had one, pounded in my ears. I'm not one of you, I said. You are, Ruth replied. You've been here all along. You just kept pretending to be alive. The room grew darker, the walls breathing. The coffee pot hissed, spilling black liquid that pooled across the floor, forming reflections of faces, screaming, reaching. One of the members, a thin man named Carl, stood up. You think you can run from the meeting? He said. His voice trembled between laughter and a growl. Nobody leaves the 13th step. You just keep sharing until there's nothing left to share. Their laughter built a sick, distorted harmony. Ruth raised her hand, and the others quieted. We're not your punishment, Evan, she said softly. We're your support group. Then why does this feel like hell? Because you're still fighting it. She pointed to the empty chair. Sit. Admit what you did. Take the step. I backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. But it wasn't a wall anymore. It was a mirror. And in that mirror, I saw myself sitting in the circle already, head bowed, lips moving in silent confession. Then the reflection smiled. It's okay, it said. You can rest now. I turned around. The room was gone. I stood in the middle of a dark road, rain pouring down. My car was wrecked in the ditch. The boy lay on the pavement, motionless. My own body sat behind the wheel, eyes open, face pale. Sirens wailed in the distance. I looked down at my hands. They flickered, half transparent. And behind me, in the rain, the 12 figures stood watching. Ruth stepped forward, holding the same coffee mug, steaming in the storm. It's time, she whispered. Step 13, surrender. The boy on the ground opened his eyes. He smiled faintly. It's okay, he said. You can forgive yourself now. I dropped to my knees. For the first time since that night, I cried. When I looked up, the road was gone. The circle was around me again. The lights were soft, warm. The basement felt peaceful. Ruth smiled, her face no longer cold. Welcome home, Evan. Keep coming back. The clock on the wall finally moved. 1 second. Then another. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. Months later, or maybe years, another man walked down those stairs into the church basement. Rain dripping from his coat, eyes hollow, hands shaking. Ruth stood to greet him. Welcome, friend, she said. We're so glad you're here. 12 chairs waited in a circle. One was empty. My name's Evan, I said. and I'll be your sponsor." The door closed. The meeting began.